Hi, how you doing? Thanks for downloading Garden Fork Radio. If this is your first time here, it's Eclectic DIY. It's me and my friends talking about what I hope is interesting to you. It's interesting to me. Just the gamut of stuff. It can be DIY and how-to and home improvement, maker topics, gardening, cooking, wherever our brains take us, which can be a dangerous thing. Anyway, today I have a special guest. I have Barb from Troy-Bilt on the show. If you've listened to Garden Fork for any amount of time, Troy-Bilt is a sponsor of Garden Fork. I've been working with them, I think, 4 years now. And every year I've worked with them, I have met with them at a get-together meetup thing. I'm not quite sure what they call it. But I had met Barb the first time I was there, and every time I go, me and Barb get to hang out together. So it's more, it is a brand relationship, but it's also kind of a friend relationship as well. They are down-to-earth, hardworking people, and you don't get that every day in the world anymore. So something to think about there. But we are going to talk about some summer and fall grass growing, lawn maintenance tips and stuff that Troy-Bilt has come up with, and I also have some ideas to talk about as well. So let's go talk to Barb. All right, here we go. Hey, Barb, how you doing?
Hello, Eric. Good to hear your voice this morning.
Yeah, the last time we were together, we were in Cleveland, and I had a really fun time there.
I know. We did. We lucked out with good weather that week and had a great project over at Providence House. I've been following that project on Instagram, and looks like it's really been filling in well, and that the children there are really enjoying that area.
That was for people that haven't listened to Garden Fork in a while. Last time I went with Troy-Bilt, well, every time I get together with you all, we do a community project, and I thought that was the best project. It's a house that has been outfitted to deal with at-risk young children, and there was this yard, and we turned half of it into a really nice garden.
We did, yeah. Providence House in Cleveland. They're a critical care facility for children. So they work with the parents and the families to, create a plan to reunite everyone. And it's children from newborn up to 12. So they had some great yard space there and playground equipment, but they didn't have that kind of quiet garden type environment to relax in. And I know the staff is also enjoying that area as well. It's just a little breakaway point. And I do have to check in on how the pumpkin patch is growing, because that was seeds when we left in May. So it ought to be putting out some little baby pumpkins here soon.
I would hope. I don't know. I got to use power equipment, so I like that. So.
And you did an excellent job, Eric.
So
safety first. That was important.
So I am your average lawn yard homeowner guy, and I only have a limited amount of time to make my yard look like something. And my neighbor, who's a good friend of mine, his yard looks like a golf course, But he spends a ton of time. He's retired. He has some very large lawn equipment. And I'm like, I want this to look nice, but I don't have a lot of time. And you had some ideas, and I have some ideas also. So do you want to throw us one of your ideas?
Sure. For fall lawn care, I think you can almost narrow it down to 4 key tasks to do in the yard. You want to first of all, just clear the debris. Storms over the summer bring down branches and, just different things coming down. So kind of pick up the debris, get that out of the way. If you leave it on there, it can start to really suffocate the grass if it's got too much of it. So if you clear that, and then as the season starts to wind down, you want to mow your grass a little shorter for the winter time, and it really, because it's not going to have any significant growth over the winter anyway, and it'll help keep that mulch down. Then you want to aerate to help break up that soil and move the water around. and then probably give it some fertilizer.
I think I want to hire one of those lawn care guys to come through and just aerate the whole lawn with that giant aerator plug machine.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, one less thing I have to do.
I mean, not that there aren't, aerators out there that you can, they can attach to the back of a riding lawnmower or push versions, but, it can be a lot of work. They can get really heavy if you don't have something to pull it with, like a lawn tractor or an ATV, depending on the size of your lawn. I think hiring someone to do that is probably makes the task a lot easier.
Yeah, one and done, and just like, here you go. Here's your money.
See you in the spring.
I did not know about cutting the lawn a little shorter like that, but that makes sense because I think the taller grass can get matted down a lot easier, and if it's short, you're kind of good to go.
Yes, yeah, and if you keep it just a little, like slightly shorter than normal, it helps prevent snow mold too. If you're in the northern region for that. Pretty much during the season, cool season grasses up kind of in the area where you're at, we generally say like 2.5 inches to 3.5 inches tall during the summer.
Yep.
A little higher helps shade the grass and not have it burn out. And then in the warm season grasses, like I have down in North Carolina, we kind of keep ours between 1 to 3 inches in height. And then, as a rule of thumb, we would say never cut off more than 1/3 of your grass height. So that helps to keep smaller clippings, and they'll decompose easier to fertilize your lawn more rapidly than contributing to a thatch problem.
And you guys aren't just making this up. I have been to the testing grounds, the testing grasses, which is this huge field with different grasses you're growing.
We do. I think we grow 20 different types of grass back in that field, so that we can test the quality of cut in anywhere almost in the world, because they grow differently. They have different textures to them. They respond differently when a blade comes across it and different growing conditions. So we've really, we do go to the extreme in our testing. As you also saw there, mowers in particular, go through some very extreme testing. If you recall for a mower to test the blade, that the blade will stop, we actually throw a steel stake up through the middle of the floor to make sure that blade stops and doesn't shatter. We throw, buckets of ball bearings and nails into the mower to make sure that the bags don't come through the bags, and they don't, wouldn't injure someone as, if they were to pick up something like sharp like that.
Yeah, I got to see all that. It was pretty amazing. So basically there's a concrete floor with this metal plate, and then you push a lawnmower over it that's running, and you pull this chain, and under the metal plate, it's like a little trap door opens, and this 1-inch steel rod that has a spring underneath it, basically comes up through the floor and gets whacked by the mower blade. And what you all are testing, and I was fascinated by, because I'm like that kind of thing, is will the mower blade shred? Will it shrapnel out and hurt somebody? And you kind of had this wall of just broken mower blades, and it was pretty phenomenal. So you're not just cranking out mowers and selling them, you're actually testing that, and then how those mowers perform on the grass. That must be 30 acres of grass you have there or something.
Oh, we have a lot more than 30 acres. I think overall the campus has over 400 acres. So it's all up and down the road. It's, as you know, we're kind of out in the country, so it's a much more spread out than it initially appears.
It's a giant place. It's I was like, when are we going to get there? And all of a sudden, boom, and we just kept on. We were there, but we kept on driving. So it was fun though.
Yeah, we were happy to have you out there along with the other influencers and kind of showcase that. And I know you got to experience firsthand some zero turn rider testing on the metal ladders.
That was on Instagram. I saw when you guys had me put on the GoPro on my head and then drive over it's like driving over giant steel rebar with a machine. And that was a jarring experience.
Yeah, over and over. So you think about our testing department, which, varies in how many people are on staff, but, 20 plus in any given time of the year. And, your job is really to test to fail. Like, you want to know where that failure point is, so you can design for that. And, again, safety first. So that's really the main reason for testing, is to ensure that the products that go out are safe. And if they can survive the environments that we put these products into and the tests that we put them through, then they should certainly perform well for you in the yard. One of the hardest tests in my mind is something we do for tillers, where we till a pile of rocks.
Oh, I saw that.
And this test, whoever gets assigned to that is not just going to do that for an hour. They're literally out there all day tilling rocks. So when you think you're having a bad day, think about the Troy-Bilt guy who has to till rocks all day to ensure that the product stays safe. So, you can see a lot of the videos. We've created a whole video series called How We're Built. And if you go to our YouTube channel, the Troy-Bilt YouTube channel, you'll find there must be 20 some videos. They're by product categories, and you can actually see these tests that we're talking about, including the tilling the rocks, including the metal stakes up under the walk-behind mowers, the ladder test. It's really quite impressive if you're not used to seeing that type of testing go on. It's pretty incredible to see.
That was fun to watch. I'm glad I didn't have to you didn't make me rototill rocks. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So somebody asked about, I asked some people, and someone said, what do I do about brown spots in my yard? And I actually have one of these in my yard. So what should I do?
Well, brown spots can be caused by a number of things. Sometimes it's shady conditions. Sometimes it's just not enough nutrients getting into the soil. So, you might, depending on where the brown spot is, you might even want to consider just planting a ground cover in there instead of the grass, if that's something that works for the area. Otherwise, you might want to take a soil sample to your local extension office and see if you might have any grub issues or something else going on in the pH of the soil to really address what you need to do to solve it. If it's too shady, you may have to look at trimming, limbs off the trees or the shrubs, whatever's, if it's something like that can help.
Yeah, I have two sugar maples in the front yard, and they seek sunlight, because they just kind of, it's amazing how fast they'll shoot out tree limbs into the yard, and then that part of the yard just becomes there's just no grass there. And I did a seed mix of shade grass and a kind of a healthy mixed grass, but it's not cutting it. So I think I got to throw some. I like the sugar maple growing, so I think I might throw in some kind of ground cover in there. Yeah,
I like Pachysandra myself. Ivy, you got to be careful with, as you probably know, it can get invasive.
Yep.
In some areas. So, kind of the slower growth. I like the evergreen.
Is Pachysandra an evergreen?
Yes. I know my mother grew it in Ohio for, ever. So
that was a test question, Barb.
Did I pass?
Yes.
Was that an extra credit question?
Yeah, I'm buying the drinks next time. So So health. Another topic here is healthier plants and pruning, because in the fall, people are always asking me when's the best time to prune, and my answer is usually when you have the pruners in your hand, but that's not necessarily true.
You're correct. You want to be careful when you prune, so that some plants, they're setting their flower buds and new growth for the following year, so you don't want to impact that. But I think it's always safe to say that any diseased or dead branches, damaged flowers, shoots, etc., can be removed at any time.
Right.
And you can thin out when you see, typically on trees, you don't want branches that are crossing each other, so you want to thin those down.
I have some apple trees, and they are notorious. I was trying to prune them into like an arching habit, and they are notorious for crossing, because when they're little twigs, that doesn't seem like a big deal. But as they, you get the 1 inch thick and they rub, you're rubbing the bark away. So it's like constantly someone rubbing on your leg, and it creates an open wound. And then bad things can get into the tree. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why it's important to, consider what garden zone you're in, to when the right time of year is to prune back. We're in North Carolina. It's still pretty hot, so we'll wait another probably month or so until we do a good heavier pruning.
Okay, this shout out has been long overdue on my part, probably years overdue. But with Troy-Bilt is a agency called Marcus Thomas that they basically put together the Eric Gardenfork Troy-Bilt relationship. So I just wanted to thank Aaron and Aya from Marcus Thomas, and then also a big shout out to TJ at Marcus Thomas. And TJ, I cannot pronounce your last name, so we're just going to leave it at that. But there's only one person at Marcus Thomas named TJ. So just a thank you to you guys, because you are the glue that made me be able to link up with Troy-Bilt, and that was pretty cool. All right, back to the show. The next thing on our list here is something I used to try to do, and then just reading this kind of made me realize again, is you guys are suggesting to alternate your mower direction.
Oh, absolutely. The mowing, so you can get creative if you want. And if you've never, Google searched mowing lawn patterns like you see on baseball fields and other professional sports fields.
Oh, I've never done
that. You can
do
some really creative. Oh, you can do some really creative patterns. Typically, to get the best result, you want to have like a roller on your mower so that the grass you can roll in different directions so the grass lays a different way, and then that gives you that dark and light variation.
But
just not mowing in the same direction every time is just healthier for your grass, because your grass will tend to remain upright and not kind of bend one way or the other, which then, you could get like a sun scorch on one side because it's always laid over that side. I think another really important thing to keep in mind, and, we see this in the news, is please do not put grass clippings out onto the street. It's dangerous for motorcyclists, bicyclists. My rule of thumb is always 2 passes, putting the clippings into the interior of your yard. So 2 passes along your driveway, 2 passes along the street side, to keep those clippings from being out there. Once you get 2 passes, then you're typically good. You'd want to continue to mow, discharging into the area you've already cut. But, that can just be not a good experience for others out there when the clippings are out in the street.
Yeah, I have a neighbor that does that. So,
I mean, if you're not going to go out with a leaf blower or a broom, afterwards, it's just easiest. Do 2 passes, blowing the clippings to the interior before you kind of reroute yourself the other direction. That'll go a long way towards alleviating that problem. If you have problem finding time to mow, Troy-Bilt launched on both Alexa and the Google Home skill a mow scheduler.
No.
So if you download, the app and sync your calendar, then you can ask Troy, when should I mow this week? And the app will look at the weather conditions in your area, your calendar, and it'll say, hey, how about, Thursday at 4 looks good. Would you like me to schedule it? And then as we all lead these super busy lives, it always helps to have it on the calendar, right? Get that reminder.
Wow.
That it's time to go do something. So
it's like a virtual clipboard of stuff to do.
Yeah. And if the weather patterns change or your calendar changes, then the Ask Troy app will say, hey, looks like it's going to be rain on Thursday. How about, Wednesday night or Friday morning or whatever, seems to work best with what you've got on your schedule. But just kind of a way to help, plan for it. We hear it with a lot of things, right? You want to pay yourself first. You want to schedule time for exercise. Everybody's all about putting it on the schedule. And if you've got a busy family life and children with activities and places to go and things to do, sometimes just that little extra help of, putting something that you need to do on your calendar and just, take a little stress off and make it a little easier for yourself.
Is there an ideal time during the day to mow your lawn?
Typically during the cooler times of the day, so in the morning or later in the afternoon. Certainly, your weather pattern where you're at can dictate that. And you want to avoid mowing any really wet grass, if at all possible.
Yep.
But generally, the cooler times of the day, there's just less. It doesn't stress out the grass so much.
Or the grass mower.
Or the grass mower, true.
So the other thing, this is less of an issue now, but we have some watering suggestions. Even though we have a hurricane coming up the East Coast, so some watering suggestions.
Yeah, so watering overall is better if you do it more deeply and less frequently. When you water frequently for just a little bit, the root structure in the grass and your plants tends to stay closer to the surface of the soil and doesn't develop as strong a root system as watering it more deeply, which causes the roots to grow deeper and anchor the grass and the plants into the ground better and hold on to that moisture. So that's a key thing. And then I think also time of day is important as well. Again, the early morning or early evening are the best times to water. You want to avoid watering too late at night just to avoid any like mold or mildew that might grow, because typically, your nights get cooler and you have the potential to, have some other issues pop up with the dampness created by the later watering.
My big thing that drives me crazy, I see people with the sprinkler going in the middle of the day and it's shooting like 15 feet up into the air, and I guess it's supposed to drop back down onto the yard. And I'm like, all you're doing is evaporating water. You're not really watering.
Yes, same thing here. And or when the sprinkler systems come on and it's raining.
Yeah.
And I understand that they're set on systems and it's automatic, but it always just kind of makes me shake my head that haven't figured out a way for like the sprinkler heads to sense that there's water in the ground or there's water coming down.
There's got to be a smart system for that, but I think probably maybe some of the older systems or the less expensive systems don't have that rain sensor thing built in, I would imagine.
Yeah, good point.
So we were sent some interesting statistics from Aya, who I also got to meet at the last meetup here. So I was just going to read these. Let's see. According to a survey by Porch.com, 57% of homeowners feel their home is a work in progress. On top of the home improvement tasks they need to complete, 27% rank landscaping outdoor projects as one of their must-dos. So people are actually still into their yards. They're staring at their phones the whole time, but they still want their yard to look nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see the same thing here. People, they want to extend their living area. It's not just in the house or out of the house. It's both. And they want a seamless environment, and they want a place to, be with the family, entertain friends, neighbors, and they want it to be as personalized too, as can be. I think people, they take pride in what their lawns look like and what they've done with it, and it kind of reflects their personality. And you can see that in the types, the plants they choose. Are they choosing, flowers? Is it shrubs? Containers? What types of containers? All kinds of things. I mean, there's so many things you can do in your yard, right? With not just with the grass, but the plants, and you can have play areas.
And it doesn't have to be expensive either.
No, not at all. Not at all. You'd be surprised what a couple bright colored containers with some flowers in it. You can move them around, over the course of the summer as your sunlight changes, or you develop new areas or entertainment spots you want to get into. It's great. You can grow herbs to help, cook with.
The last video I did with Troy-Bilt, I had to drop a ash tree that was dying, and so I took the stump and I made it into a planter.
I saw that, and you planted coneflowers, and they looked great.
Which are low maintenance, because a container can dry out faster, and they do well with kind of lower water levels, I guess is the word. But that video is more popular than a lot of my other videos I've been putting out lately. So that I think that kind of says that people are interested in kind of upgrading their yard, but they don't want to drop a lot of coin on it,
Yeah, and you also, what a great idea to repurpose some wood crates that you had on hand that you had to dispose of somehow to help to build that planter.
Yeah, I'm kind of a pallet hoarder, so and I was told that some of them need to leave.
Reduce, reuse, repurpose.
Yeah.
And that's what you did. Now, will those coneflowers come back up in the spring, do you think, up that far north, or you need to replant them?
They're a perennial, and then they'll reseed. But another tip is that I don't deadhead those. I don't, once the flower part dies off and it becomes a seed head, I don't cut the seed head. I leave it on. And there are migrating finches and sparrows that come through our area, and they eat the seeds for food on their migration path. And then the seeds that they didn't dislodge, when you get your 2 feet of snow and then the wind blows, the wind knocks the rest of the seed head off. And then it literally, those black seeds sit on top of the snow. And then other like your overwintering birds, like chickadees, will come through and eat that seed as well. So it's kind of cool that way.
Oh, yeah, that's very cool.
So despite the fact that there's a hurricane coming up the coast, it is the start of fall. I didn't realize it was September already. I still thought it was August. But up by me, the sugar maples are already starting to turn the color. The leaves are starting to turn color, which are beautiful. But I'm going to have to deal with leaves and stuff in my yard. So what do you think? What are your thoughts or suggestions for fall cleanup?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of tools out there that can help make your fall yard cleanup go a little easier. Obviously, raking onto tarps to pull it off is probably the simplest and least expensive way to get it done, but probably the most work, the most physical labor. You can use leaf blowers to kind of get the leaves out from around the patios and under the shrubs and things of that nature. You can also blow them onto a tarp if you have a large area to clear. If you kind of put all the leaves onto a tarp, and then you can drag the tarp off to the side or wherever you dispose of leaves. Troy-Bilt also has got chipper shredders.
They do.
And chipper shredder vacs. Yes, which really can reduce your yard waste, almost 10 to 1 on the chipper shredder. So you can take 10 bags of leaves, twigs and branches, and reduce it down to 1 bag. So that's really helpful for larger areas. It's great to add into if you have a compost pile going or you want to start one. It's great to take those materials and put them in there so you can use them in the garden next year.
I actually have the giant chipper shredder, and I've used it on 2 big projects. One, I kind of rescued my blueberry bushes and made them into a raised bed, a defined raised bed, because the kind of weedy part of my property was, basically choking the blueberries. But I had to cut down a dead apple tree, and so I ran that through the chipper shredder, and I took all the wood chips. I laid down, first of all, I cleaned up the area around the blueberries. Then I laid down cardboard, Troy-Bilt cardboard, of course. And then, because that was from the chipper shredder that came. And then I chipped up that apple tree and I laid that down. And the blueberries were much happier, and it was much easier to pull any weeds that tried to come through. But I had like 3 inches of wood chip mulch there, and that did pretty good. But a mistake I see people make with that, putting the mulch around trees or bushes, is it's called a volcano mound. They mound it up against the tree bark, and you don't want to do that. You want to have like a 2 or 3 inch buffer between the mulch and the tree or shrub itself. So that's one thing that I found out.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. If you get those too close to the tree itself, you just open yourself up for an environment that, disease can start to grow. The sunlight doesn't come down through at that point. And yeah, that's a really good tip to keep in mind.
The other thing I found that people, they try and jam, when you have a home version of the chipper shredder, it's not like the one on the back of the truck from the utility company, So they overdo it, and then I'm like, a little at a time, and you'll do just fine. But there is this kind of, at least from the Eric point of view, it's man versus nature, and you're actually taking it, turning into something. You're kind of accelerating the breakdown process. But there's a certain feeling of completion, and you're kind of decluttering your yard, and you have this great pile of wood chips to do something with.
Yeah, you're right. It's there's so much you can do with it. Afterwards, just you can take some of those chips if you've got a vegetable garden bed and you're getting it ready for the winter. You could use a tiller and kind of mulch it into the soil now, or even just spread it on top now, and then come spring, work the decomposed shreds, into the soil, and that's, great nutrients for, next year's vegetable garden.
I love it. The other thing is that the mulch that you buy at the store that comes in bags and it's like brown or black, it's been painted. They have a chipper shredder, a large one, and it comes out, and then they spray it to whatever color you want. You can get your red mulch or your black mulch or whatever. And I just find that really strange. So the stuff that's coming out of your own chipper shredder is just a better deal. I don't really want, spray painted mulch on my plants.
Yeah, it's very natural looking, and it'll decompose very naturally. In fact, you can even take some of that and use it in your house plants. Put a couple handfuls, maybe a half inch or so, in the pots of your house plants, and take a little garden fork and work it into that top layer of soil, and that'll help provide nutrients for your house plants over the winter.
I had not thought of that. All right, well, cool. Well, I think people have probably got to their workplace, or they're done folding their laundry. I listen to podcasts when I fold the laundry, so that's probably more information that you needed to know. But
well, I find the car is best for me. I like to be not distracted when I'm listening to the podcast. When
you're listening to Garden Fork, of course, right, Barb?
Every day, Eric. Every day.
So what
is Eric up to?
Probably the best places to find out more about Troy-Bilt and lawn care stuff is you have your YouTube channel. So that's youtube.com/ is it /Troy-Bilt, or just type Troy-Bilt?
Troy-Bilt, yes. Yeah.
And then Troy-Bilt.com, there'll be links there.
Yes, we have a whole knowledge center. If you go to Troy-Bilt.com and you look under the tips and how-to, you'll see a whole library of, lawn care, gardening, yard cleanup, snow removal. We virtually have something for every yard need that you have. We make tall grass short in a lot of different ways. We can split wood, create mulch, blow leaves as well. We're happy to kind of be that helpful partner in the yard for everyone.
All right. So thanks for your time, Barb. If you guys have any questions or thoughts, it's radio@gardenfork.tv, radio@gardenfork.tv. If you have some lawn care stuff you want to talk about, I can get Barb back on the show here, and we can get more answers from the experts. I actually would like to try and get a picture of the grass test facility to include on this. So maybe I can nudge someone at Troy-Bilt about that. But it is an epic sight to look at that thing.
We can help you out with that.
All right, cool, everyone. Make it a great day, and we will see you later. Garden Fork Radio's executive producer is Jimmy Goots of hollowbooks.com, and our music is licensed from uniquetracks.com.